people on the APC side simply think that Nigerians just hate them because of politics, or Nigerians are not seeing what they are seeing, right? Unfortunately, when you get into the kind of place where they are, the type of politics that they have been structured to follow, you hardly are able to see beyond your nostrils. You can't see what is happening. You are insulated from reality. That's what is going on. This is why the Catholic bishops will visit President Tinubu and they come out and they'll conclude that, you know what, this man is not seeing what others are seeing. He doesn't even know what is going on. He is just desperate to win this election in 2027 by all means possible. And they are not the first people who have said this. The other time, the coalition or whatever they are called of opposition political parties were invited to come and break after fast with the president in the villa. That was what they also came out saying.
I will say, Mr. President, you are our leader, you are our father. This electoral act that you are shoving down the throat of the National Assembly is not good for the country. Because an election should not result in a politician winning and the people losing. Who will you lead? And we made so many respectful and persuasive pleas to the president as the father of the nation. The president will have said, yeah, okay, I've heard you, I'll pray over it. He just jumped up and said, oh, you provoke me. Why should I help the nation? Why should I help you? I'm contesting. It's on tape, what I'm saying. I'm contesting. They're provoking me. When I was in opposition, I suffered. Go and suffer your own. Why should I make laws that favor free and fair election? Wow. If you don't want to vote, don't vote. Who said we must vote? You can sleep in your house. If it's only 3 people that vote for me, I win.
My God.
And he concluded, I say, politics is a game, and the game is sweet when you are winning.
So it's all about the desperation to return to power. And this is why the people are increasingly agitated. And they're not just agitated because of the president's tribe or his religion. No, I can explain to you why the people are grossly agitated. Those who have information. It is because there is a new colonial structure that is being now ushered into Africa to forestall what the colonial powers have now seen as a new campaign to dismember the colonial hold and stranglehold on Africa. And that campaign to dismember the stranglehold on Africa is led by Russia. And it has produced 3 solid results that no one can negate today. And that is Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic. That is what is going on. So when that happened, then France, colonial France, was kicked out of these 3 African countries that I regard as the only truly independent African countries today. From the days that they were told, that Africans were told, you now have independence, we're going home by the colonials, no African country has been free until these 3 emerged and kicked out colonial France from their territories and destroyed every single new colonial structure that France had embedded their system of government with which they controlled them, and it is in every African country. So when that happened, the colonials merged forces. France and UK have now become one. I mean, all the colonial powers are one, but there is a newfound relationship between France and the UK. That's why France can be seen in a colony of Britain, which is Nigeria, playing the role that Britain is supposed to play in plain sight. That's why you would see Tinubu and Macron frolicking every minute of the day. He goes even to France more than he would go to the UK because of that merger, because of that fusion of forces to retake Africa. It's the new scramble for Africa. This is what worries us. Remember what happened in Ivory Coast when Laurent Gbagbo won an election, popular vote and everything, but the French knew that Gbagbo was coming to dismantle all their structures of control on that nation, one of the most colonially controlled nations in Africa. And they did what? They brought all their goons, they brought all their partnerships with United Nations and everything to the fore and used that to suppress, to humiliate and destroy that guy. Even sent him to prison and later declared that he was not guilty of anything, which all of us knew from day one. But now they put a stooge over there in Ivory Coast who claimed he was coming into rule for just a few years and then he will leave. He is still in power till today. I think he's on his 4th term or 5th term. That's a life president. Back to what we used to have when we had the president of Cameroon, who is still there after more than 4 decades. When we had the Yadema, who stayed in power until he died. This is the thing that they are bringing back, not only for French colonies, which were known for all these things, but now for British colonies now going to start having life presidents. So it is the life presidency that the people are worried of, are scared of. It is the one-party state that the people are worried and are scared of. Beyond even the life presidency and the one-party state tyranny that they are building, constitutional tyranny that they are building, let me tell you what more. You notice that recently when there was some type of coup d'etat in Benin Republic, Tinubu did not waste one single minute to dispatch Nigerian forces to go there and quail whatever they saw as a coup d'etat so they can restore power to the guy who was almost losing his power in Benin Republic. And Benin Republic is a French colony. Do you see the merging of forces, right? And you think it is only between British and British and French colonies. No! The colonials are merging forces. They are installing new sets of stooges, of puppets, who will now take their control of Africa to the next level. And we see that the only one piece that is missing is the capture of Nigeria. That the moment they colonially and constitutionally capture Nigeria, it is over. Ivory Coast is captured already. The guy is not going anywhere. I can bet you he's going to be a life president and he will stay there until he dies. And before he dies, they already have somebody coming for him. Okay? So what they are doing now is they are trying to make sure that when they capture Nigeria, Nigeria will be the center of their operations to protect the African colonies, so that any nation in Africa that would dare to say we want change, we want to become like Mali, Burkina Faso, or Niger Republic, Nigeria will be the one to lead the forces of all the other African colonies, slaves, to go and attack that person in the same way that Tinubu alone attacked the guys who wanted to free their people in Benin Republic. This time around, he will lead a coalition, an army of African nations that will go to attack that other nation. That's what they're meeting, the recent meeting, they call it Africa Fast Forward or whatever nonsense they call that in Kenya recently. That's what that was all about. That's what that was all about. So if they capture Nigeria with one-party statehood and life presidency, that is the end. No nation on the continent of Africa will ever breathe the air of freedom again. And not only that, watch out, very soon where they will now begin to put their forces together and get ready to go and dislodge our brothers in Niger Republic, in Burkina Faso, and in Mali. They will now be the ones to go and fight them, to tell them that they must join the forces of the African Union or ECOWAS by force. Forces, all these organizations, these guys in the Sahel have already pulled out from them. This is why people are worried. This is why people are scared. I know there is a Christian genocide going on in Nigeria, and we have been talking about how Muslims are killing Christians and all of that. But I'm going to tell you today, all of that is distraction. The real meat of the matter is what I just told you, is that the colonials are trying to capture Nigeria with one-party statehood and life presidency so that Nigeria will become the center of gravity for the retaking of Africa, because there is a new scramble for Africa. There is a new colonial structure for Africa, and they want Nigeria to be the headquarters of that new structure. Let me tell you what happened in Senegal recently, according to one blogger from Senegal. So the other day, I was watching a video, and there's this guy from Senegal who was breaking down what really happened between Diomaye Faye, the current young president of Senegal, and Ousmane Sonko. You know Sonko, right? I think Sonko later became the president of the Senate. But you know that Sonko and Faye were the revolutionaries who were fighting to free their country from the colonial stranglehold of France, right? And two of them were so popular, and Sonko was the one leading. It wasn't Faye that was leading, it was Sonko who was ahead. And they saw him as a potential Pan-Africanist who could actually bring about what happened in the Sahel in Senegal. And that startled them so much. So their stooge who was in power then basically took Sonko and threw him into jail and left him there while it were being planned, because they knew that Sonko had so much populist following from the country. A lot of people, young people, were following him. There was so much popularity that this guy was controlling in that country. So what they did was that they took his second in command and allowed him to come out, because he was also jailed, to come out, and they made him become president. Sonko gave his blessing, and the rest became history. But here's what this young man from Senegal was saying in the video that I watched recently. The young man was saying that when Faye came to power, that Faye still had that fiery Pan-Africanist mindset and spirit in him, and really wanted to do good by the people of Senegal. But there's something very critical happened, that France grew wary of what is his name, Faye, and noticed that Faye was now tilting towards his Pan-Africanist, promises and stuff like that. So they got very angry with him, and Sonko was there propping him up, and the people wanted this Pan-Africanist kind of retaking of their country, okay? But then they said it was Tinubu, according to this young man. The guy said that it was Tinubu that France reached out to and told him to invite Faye. And Tinubu invited Faye, and immediately after the meeting with Faye, Faye went back. He goes back to Senegal, and all of a sudden, everything changed. Faye now became a pure, full-blown colonial puppet. And that unsettled Sonko, and that is where people believe the rivalry, not even rivalry, but the acrimonious relationship that they now have, that was where they trace it to. That's where it began. So immediately after meeting Tinubu, Faye goes back to Senegal and prepares to visit France. He visits France and now bows to France and bows to Macron. And then from that moment on, everything that France wants is what they get in Senegal. So the retaking of Senegal has happened, and who facilitated it, according to this social media blogger, it is the president of Nigeria. And look now, two different countries. You have sent Nigerian soldiers to go and stop a coup in Benin Republic. You have also now influenced the revolutionary president of Senegal to go back to the colonial powers and bow to them, two French colonies, by a man leading a British colony. Do you see what I told you about the fusion of forces and powers to make sure that what happened in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic does not repeat anywhere again on the continent of Africa? And they will use military power to stop it. And even when nobody has done anything to try to take power and bring about revolution in Africa, they will still put their forces together at some point to go and attack the Sahel. If care is not taken, that may happen maybe around towards the end of 2027 or sometime around 2028. That's why the Sahel states, the AES states, are getting themselves prepared and ready. And of course, with the backing of Russia, any attack on those guys is going to spell doom for the rest of Africa. Those guys in the Sahel are so desirous of seeing Africa free. The model they are using in the Sahel is what Muammar Gaddafi was going to apply to set Africa free forever before the colonials set him up and killed him, destroyed him, called him a bad name, and made everybody look at him like he was a dog. And then they went and killed him, and Africa lost its last chance to be free. The next time we got that chance again was these Sahel states that came back to life and kicked the colonials out of their territories. Now the colonial powers are looking for the strongest nations in Africa to band together to be able to create a firewall against any potential rebellion that will lead to the freedom and liberation of Africans from their new colonial stranglehold. This is why people are scared and worried about Tinubu. And this is why President Tinubu too, I believe, is so insistent on getting the power. This is why I believe also he's not even scared of losing. This is why I told you people, if you follow me on YouTube, you must have seen when I described how that the colonial power structure in Nigeria was relocated to southwest of Nigeria, because what they are trying to do with Tinubu, they wanted to do with Buhari. But because Buhari, of course, has ties to Niger Republic, and the Niger people have already strong ties with Russia, which now led to what we have today, a free Niger Republic. They found out that these people were, their body language, which is the Buhari admin, was more in favor of a Russian intervention than a British colonial imposition. And when they found that out was when we had that riot in the north then, when people out of nowhere suddenly showed up with Russian flags. I've said it in multiple videos I put on YouTube, right? And that was when these people panicked and said, you know what? No matter what happens, this power structure will leave the Fulani North and go to Southwest, because these Fulanis have betrayed us. Remember, the Fulani North have been the face of the colonial powers in Nigeria for as long as we can remember. They have been the ones holding the torch of colonial control, neo-colonial control in Nigeria on behalf of the colonials. They have been stripped of that now because of the lack of trust they now have, the colonials now have on them, due to what happened. Because they know that if they had left that power structure with them, that they would have used it to tip the balance and let Russia come in and do what? And take Nigeria away from the colonial powers who control it today, which is Britain. And now today, Britain and France. You remember Britain and France have always shared, the loot of Nigeria. And when I mean the loot, I mean the lands. And look at French Cameroon. Look at this one. Whenever you see that some place was taken away from Nigeria, it was given to France, French Cameroon. You see that a place was taken from Cameroon in Yola part or Adamawa side. It was given to Nigeria. So they share land together. Okay, you take this piece to me. Okay, let me give you that piece in the south, and you give me that piece in the north. The relationship has now taken a whole new shape and form, so that this time around it will be incredibly difficult for any African country to smell freedom, to smell liberty, liberation. That's what they want to stop. And that's why we are worried about you, Mr. President, that the way you have given yourself to these guys, what you are doing is literally not just even against Nigerians, it's against Africa as a whole. That's why the Nigerian elections in 2027 is not a Nigerian election, it is an African election. It is something that everybody knows that, look, it is a make or mar. Like, If we don't get it right, if we don't stop what is coming, despite all the nonsense that happened in 2023, that people were so depressed and heartbroken, I still decided, you know what, if this man will do right by the people, let's give him the chance. It doesn't matter. If you were doing right, Mr. President, all of us will be cheerleading for you. If you were calling the bluff of the colonial power, we will cheer for you, but that's not what we are seeing. We are seeing somebody who is betraying us and everything we stand for. And that needs to stop, and it has to change.